Welcome back to Switched to Linux. Well, today we want to ask a simple question: who does Gnome the best? Gnome is a good desktop environment with a lot of modern elements. It is not my personal cup of tea. I personally hate it. But it is a good desktop environment when you look at things objectively. There are some things that does great. There's some things that does not do great. You know, it's very bare bones, too bare bones for me. That's why I'm not a huge fan of it. You can extend it with extensions. That's also why I'm not a huge fan of it, because I am a WordPress developer, and the thing that makes WordPress bad is all these stupid extensions. But nevertheless, Gnome is a good desktop environment, and we want to ask the question today about who does Gnome the best. So I thought about this. Of course, you have your more vanilla Gnome experience, and that's kind of what you're going to get with a Fedora. Basically, it gives you Gnome that's not altered or adjusted or anything else. Ubuntu, of course, they have their own high, deep customization of Gnome because they're trying to accomplish a certain type of look and feel for their desktop, but they're trying to use Gnome. So they're basically taking Gnome, they're doing a lot of customization, a lot of changes, a lot of alterations. And with that, what they're trying to do is accomplish something that they think a user would want to use. And then we have PopOS, who is slowly migrating away from Gnome and moving basically into their own system, kind of like Budgie is really truly based on Gnome. You have to install Gnome to get Budgie to work. There's a lot of cross-play between them. PopOS is sort of moving in that general direction, but in so doing, they have done a lot of cool customizations as well. So we have 3 different distributions, which are all very good distributions in their own right, which all have different expressions and interpretations of the desktop environment of Gnome. So we're going to go ahead and have a look at them and look at not reviewing the distros themselves, but just kind of look at what they have actually done with themselves. So first, we're going to go ahead and do Fedora. Second, we're going to do Ubuntu. And third, we're going to do PopOS. So let's go ahead and jump on into Fedora. So here we have landed on Fedora. This is the raw Gnome experience. So Fedora gives us the latest Gnome without actually making a lot of changes. So you can see on the meta key here, we have a nice easily switch between our workspaces. We'll see that PopOS is going to do that a little bit different. I do actually like this. This is the new functionality of Gnome. Of course, you can also now stack things together inside of their individual folders and produce them the way that you would like. We don't have any desktop icon capabilities. We don't have any docks out of the box. We can add the extension to do our dash, or was it dock to dash, I think it is. We can easily change our desktop background, our settings, and our display settings from the desktop, and that is about it. So with Fedora, we get to look at a pretty desktop and then dig into our folders for actual work. Inside of our settings, what you'll notice as we look at Ubuntu and PopOS, we're actually going to see a few other options inside of here. Most of these settings are the standard settings that you will find. We have your basic notifications, searching functions, multitasking. All these guys you're going to find within PopOS and Ubuntu, but those ones are going to give us some extra options like accent colors for our operating system, firmware that you'll get inside of PopOS. But as far as our basic functionality, Fedora gives us nothing but a raw Gnome experience. Mostly, we're just talking about this one in the event that we just kind of want to see what it looks like. There is the possibility of installing extensions, which you can do through plugins. I'm not sure if Firefox will have those plugins set in or not. Let's go ahead and see. It looks like they don't. Basically, there is a plugin that you can add to your web browser that you go to your Gnome extensions and you can easily add them. So we're going to have to get in there and manually add those if we want. So with Fedora, we're getting effectively 0 customization. We have a raw Gnome experience. Overall, as I said, I do like the way that this works. I'm going to like one of the other ones a little bit better, but Fedora has come a long way. The fact that it has no desktop icons kind of irritates me to no end. I would kind of prefer that I at least had the options without using extensions, because every extension that I've seen is extraordinarily clunky. So if we pull in here, I was trying to pull up the files. There it is. So if I wanted to, just do anything inside here, hold on. Just trying to remember all of my shortcuts here for GNOME. All right, so you can see that we can actually access everything. It works out well. It is fast. Even on a virtual machine here, we are quite responsive as a system. And that is actually pretty good. And that's what no customization gets us. It gives us the ability to really get in here and just really work with a system without having extensions clutter things up. Our basic software center is going to be the stock GNOME software center. Ubuntu has its Snap Store, and PopOS has its own shop, which is based on the Elementary OS store. I'm not sure where that thing went. Where are you? There you go. So now we have the option here in Fedora. This is a Fedora specific. Do you want to enable third-party repositories? We can enable those or disable those. And then you can come in down here. Now, it will take a little bit of time for it to populate as it updates its systems. But there is a little bit about Fedora. So we're going to have a look at Ubuntu now. So over here on Ubuntu, we have booted this system up on the live key. We have the desktop icons here. This is going to be your big difference here. A lot of people I'm seeing like, what's the point of stupid desktop icons? To work on your desktop! That's what they're there for. This is the one thing Ubuntu does right, is they give us desktop environments. Sure, they're antiquated and clunky and don't work quite as well as I would like them to. But for those of us that do want to use desktop icons, Ubuntu is your choice with this. There are extensions to add desktop environments onto it. There's a few different ways of doing it. Some of them do it better, some do it worse. Now, this version of Ubuntu, which is the latest version, it tends to do them a little bit better. The context menu for just on the desktop is a little bit better than some of the other extensions will give us, but that's what we have. Of course, Ubuntu also has the side dock here to give us our access to all of our applications and the favorite across the sidebar. The other thing that Ubuntu is giving us is more settings inside of your configurations. They're giving us a few extra options. One of those is the appearance. So Ubuntu now has an appearance system where you can choose your system highlight color or accent color, I guess it's called. And you can go light or dark mode easily. Now, the light or dark mode is becoming integrated into GNOME, but the accent colors is something that is new. You can see the desktop icons. This is also specific to Ubuntu. You can put the size normal, small, large, tiny. You can put the position, new icons, bottom right, top left, etc. So you can choose that, and then you can choose to show or hide the personal folder. We don't have a lot of other options like your trash can and network options. These are things that I personally want on the desktop, but hey, the fact that we can at least use desktop icons at all is good. We can adjust the dock very easily here as well. You can adjust the size of it. You can adjust it in panel mode or in the full screen mode, like the full width mode. You can auto hide the dock or not auto hide the dock. And then you can choose where it's actually going to be displayed on. You can put it on the position of screen, left, bottom, or right. You can't do the top because, of course, the status bar on the top. But for those that want it on the bottom, you can do that. On Ubuntu, as much as I've never really cared for things on the left, Ubuntu is the one distribution. I'll just keep it on the left. And then you have some dock behavior. You can include the unmounted volumes. So basically all the things that I typically like on my desktop, you can choose to set over here. You can turn on or turn off your network options, show your trash can or hide your trash can, and things like that. So they do have a lot of other options inside of here. The other thing that I'm trying to think if there's something else. I know that PopOS has a few new options in here as well. But I don't think we have other specific options here. As far as everything else being used, Ubuntu itself is going to give us, we can still use extensions, but we have to be careful. Some of the extensions may break with some of the customizations that they've done. But overall, Ubuntu, they bring us the desktop icons and the accent colors. And they'll give us an experience that, I mean, I don't know if some people say it's a really good experience. Some people say it's not. I haven't used Ubuntu since Unity back in 1604 was the last time I actually ran Ubuntu in production. But it is certainly a distribution that gives us a lot of things that do differentiate it from that. So there was our look at Ubuntu. Now let's go ahead and have a look at PopOS. So here on PopOS, and this is actually my first time seeing this this particular edition of it, so that's kind of good. Now PopOS, what they're going to do is they're going to give us a bar with all of our applications on the bottom instead of on the side, or completely missing in the case of Fedora. We have easily choosing our workspaces or our applications, so you can see that it is a little bit different in that respect. Our settings options, they're going to be, of course, Gnome is different in that, in this case, you'll see that we don't have any accent colors, but the one thing that PopOS gives us that other ones don't is firmware. Yes. So if you happen to have any form of firmware updates, PopOS is going to be your best option to get those things updated very easily. So we can use a lot of different options inside of our settings for our desktop. You can enable or disable the dock as you see fit. You can extend it, like in Ubuntu, you can extend it or not. You can show the launcher or not, workspaces or not. So you can see that there's, here's your mounted devices, your non-mounted devices, and then you can choose what the icons do. I like this option because I'm not a huge fan of launching or cycling windows. I want to minimize, I like to minimize or maximize windows, but we have more options. That's good. We can choose if it's always visible, always hidden, intelligently hidden, and we can choose on all displays or on the primary displays. Of course, we see, looks like PopOS is going to give us the ability to do desktop icons. So like Ubuntu does, and these ones here, the right context menu does give us a little bit more options. So I would say that our desktop icons in PopOS they still feel clunky compared to other operating systems, but it does work, and it does actually appear to work more functionally than it does in Ubuntu. So here's our applications, and the other thing that they are getting us as well is the ability here to hit your meta key and just search for individual applications. I believe this is specific to PopOS, although that might be a function inside of the new version of Gnome. I'll go ahead and leave that one there for now. I can't remember. Now, the other thing that that PopOS does is that for people that want to wet their feet with tiling window manager, they actually have a tiling window manager mode. So you can go ahead and turn this guy on, and then your Gnome environment is going to behave just like a tiled window manager. And they have good options up here to learn what the shortcuts are and how to use things. So there are some interesting takes on there. Here's your active hint colors. You can show your active hints or not. So that'll actually help you figure out which window you're on. So this is actually a lot of good feature, good implementation into it. We'll go ahead and turn that off for now. And let's turn off the hint. That is a little distracting, although you can probably change it. So we do actually have a good implementation of Gnome. In this case, we have better desktop icons. We have the ability to use a tiling window manager. And we do have a few other options inside of our settings, primarily our firmware, which is something that we don't have in many other places. The other thing that I didn't show in Ubuntu, I probably should have, but the store, the PopOS store I like this one a whole lot better than the Snap store that you have inside of Ubuntu. So with this, you can pull this up and it should give us a few different options of installation. Now, this is based on the Elementary OS store, probably the best thing that comes out of the Elementary OS distribution. But it is based on that, which is a pretty good store, and that it gives us a few different options. You can see here that we can have some extra options. We can automatically update software. We can do important, recommended, or unsupported. We can add some extra information, and then we can easily manage our Flatpak repositories. This is something that is so missing on many stores, so I'll go ahead and highlight it here on PopOS. But overall, the GNOME experience here does have a different feel. Ubuntu's feels like GNOME with some customizations. This is starting to feel like a completely different operating system altogether. And that's actually a pretty cool take on it. I do like the way that PopOS manages GNOME better than all of them. So who does GNOME best according to you? Do you like the classic, raw, perfect, pure GNOME experience like you get inside of Fedora? Or do you like it's definitely GNOME, just a little bit customized like Ubuntu with the desktop environments? Or do you happen to like the PopOS? Let's just go ahead and change all this stuff around, use the GNOME core base, customize it the way that we like, and call it quits from there. Overall, I don't know. Between all of these, I actually like the way PopOS does it the best. Fedora probably second, and Ubuntu the third. That's kind of my personal take on it. Let me know your take in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so, and we will see you next time. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.